It's time for The Local with your host and realtor, Katie McKinney.
Welcome to The Local with Katie McKinney, your local real estate professional. Today, we've got Jana Walker, a CPA, entrepreneur, mother, businesswoman. She does it all. Jana, thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely, Katie. I am so excited for you and for this podcast. I'm really excited to be here. So thank you so much for having me.
We're excited that you're here. So kind of going into it, one reason I wanted Jana to be one of the first people featured on The Local, which is our new podcast, is she really is a jack of all trades. She does a little bit of everything, but she's really transformed my business as my accountant and CPA. So Jana, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, where did you grow up? How did you make it here?
Okay, yeah, getting from point A to Z. So I grew up just about 30 miles east of here, of Woodward, but Woodward's always really been the city center for most of the small communities around here, so I've always kind of felt at home in the community anyways, and it was super easy to come here, but I grew up on a ranch. Mom was a teacher, dad was a farmer, grew up on the farm my whole life, married a rancher, as well, and we live out by Freedom where we raise cattle mainly and those things, and then we have a couple of kids too that keeps us pretty busy. And so
Yes.
I started working actually in public accounting about just a little less than a decade ago in 2011. Got my first job under a CPA, and I stayed with that firm. And then about 2.5 years ago, I decided, hey, this is crazy. How about I start my own firm? And so after getting my CPA license in 2013, I went on and just a couple of years ago started my own firm. And then that's where I am at today.
Excellent. And do you have anything to do with our college here in Woodward?
Yes. So at that same time, whenever I split off on my own and started my own firm, I also started teaching. I guess I've always kept that in the back of my mind because I do enjoy teaching. My mom's a teacher. Maybe I get it from something like that, you would think. But once I started teaching, it's been such a great compliment to be a practitioner, to be a teacher as well, because it's kind of like when you have to learn to teach something, you really dive down a lot deeper. And so it's been the perfect complement, being able to practice and also be an instructor at Northwestern. And then it's been great to be able to teach here on the Woodward campus, actually. Excellent. For Northwestern. So I also do that.
Super exciting. Well, it's definitely a journey. And so she's a local gal for the most part, has been around here. She knows the ropes. So it's great to have you and have that insight. So, you mentioned that you love, teaching, and you also, you love accounting. Obviously, that's what you do. But what led you to that decision to become an accountant?
Yeah. So, as accountants in general, we have a little bit of a nerdy rap, I guess we get. And so my story, no different. My mom jokes that all she had to do was give me a receipt book whenever I was little. And that's what I played with. I ran many businesses out of my own closet all growing up. That's not a joke. My favorite one was a sandwich shop. I actually had a sandwich shop, and, well, my mom and dad were my only really paying customers. My brother never paid, but he was there, But I took reservations. I made receipt books. I always, the one thing my mom never got me, though, was every time I went into Sam's Club, I wanted one of those cash registers that they had.
I love those.
And I begged her every time to get me a real life one because the play count. So in a sense, I feel like I didn't know necessarily CPA would be my route until I got into college, and then I started working for a CPA, and then that route kind of opened up. But I always was in a numbers, in a book, in some type of business entrepreneur. I mean, I had a lot of businesses.
Yes. You were led to the business
This is
side.
my first one that makes money outside my family, but
That's awesome.
I've had a lot of businesses. So.
Excellent. So you knew kind of from the beginning that's what you wanted to do.
Yes.
That's pretty awesome
And
that
now,
you found your passion.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just being able to help other business owners now
Yes.
so it's a natural fit.
Very rewarding. Excellent. So, a few things we want to talk about. Obviously, I am in real estate, the real estate industry. But real estate is such a large kind of industry category. There's a lot of different things, whether it's real estate investing, whether it is different types of, ways to kind of capitalize off real estate. So examples, the 1031 exchanges, kind of the tax benefits of purchasing real estate. So I kind of wanted to just from a CPA standpoint, what are a few of the tax benefits of purchasing real estate?
So just like you said, real estate there's several different facets of it, I guess, so to speak, because it could be for personal reasons and it could be for investment reasons. It just depends on your perspective. Investments in real estate, though, I will say, it's one of my favorite investments that you can make because it's so tried and true, right? There's so many different, I guess, come and go, quote unquote, passive streams of income that I think are more or less fads a lot of times. But real estate is really the one stronghold, even though the market goes up and down, right?
Exactly.
With any industry, it's going to go up and down, but it's one of those industries that you can invest in that, if you're in a position that you can wait out those market highs and lows and the tides, highs and lows, it's something that's a pretty solid investment.
Excellent.
Land we always say, it appreciates in value, and you never sell your land. The rancher coming out of me, the rancher perspective coming out of me, that's one thing that you never sell if you can help it. And so it's a great investment. It's long-term. So that means, a lot of times it's long-terms and you get those benefits. You can also, I know there's flipping and things like that, but with that, risk reward of doing those things. But investment in real estate is still going to always be, in my mind, one of those top investments, tried and true, that you can be confident in. Okay, if you do it right. As far as the taxes go, a couple things to keep in mind. Everyone gets really worried about capital gains whenever they're in real estate and trying to avoid those and taking advantage. So the section, you mentioned the section 1031 exchange and that. So that all that is essentially trying to defer that capital gains that could be a result if you sell your investment property. Right. Okay. And when we're talking about a deferral in taxes, we're talking about deferring the cost of having to pay that so that you have the capital today to invest that money. Right. Okay, we call that the time value of money principle in business, is the fact that $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow. That's right. And the reason why it is because you can invest it today, draw interest on it, earn on it, and get more out of your money tomorrow. And so that's the concept, and kind of one of those benefits with the 1031 exchange is you're able to, if you qualify and take advantage of that, if you're in investing. But there's some rules, and obviously some in every single. I'll just say that every single situation's going to be different. Yes. Okay, because there's a million rules that can qualify you, exclude you. Yes. So I always qualify my advice with general rule of thumb, but there's a million exclusions to this rule. That's exactly But the thing with the 1031 is it gives you an opportunity to have real estate investments. And if you're in a position that maybe the property that you have right now is doing okay in its returns, but you have another property that gets you a lot more excited, that you rather invest your money, has a future prospect of getting better returns, you just want to swap something out. The 1031 gives you that opportunity without taking the tax hit now. Okay. It just, all it does is if you qualify for that like-kind exchange, you can take this property, and it has to be like-kind exchange. So you can't, for instance, take your property and exchange it for a tractor. That's not like-kind or something of those. But a like-kind exchange, if you qualify for those, it lets you take this property that you have now, and then you can exchange it for something of equal or greater value or something, and you can get those proceeds excluded so that you don't have to pay the tax today. You can pay it maybe when you sell that other property.
Right.
So you can swap something out and save whenever you do that. It makes perfect sense if you're in the investment real estate to defer any tax that you can, because it goes back to that principle. If I don't have to pay that tax, I can put that money back towards something else or in the property, in the capital of that property, and kind of go forward. But it gives you a great opportunity to if you want to diversify more assets and not get a bad tax break,
Right.
or something whenever it comes to that.
Great. Yeah, we get questions all the time. Are we going to get hit on, capital gains if we sell this year or at any point, And
Right.
so I always, advise my customers to go see their accountants before they make any of those very large decisions that could impact them down the road more than what they realize. I always think it's good to, consult an accountant or your CPA, and they know your situation better than anyone
Right.
else. So I'm not going to have that information, but the great news is we've got a lot of professionals here in the Woodward area that do know their stuff. So that's very helpful. And I think you mentioned it, kind of hit on it a little bit. When you purchase real estate, question I get all the time, of course I know because I've had to research it over and over, but what would you tell our listeners when they say, are there any, tax benefits on the interest that is incurred when you purchase, like say a first-time home buyer?
Right.
What is the benefit there?
And so it just depends. Okay. It depends if I'll separate if it's personal versus investment.
Exactly.
Okay. So if you're on your personal, yes, you still get an interest deduction and real estate taxes and all that, but it's part of your itemized deduction. So you may or may not get the benefit of it, especially with the standard deduction, more than doubling for married filing jointly individuals, over 24,000. And so it depends if you get with your other itemized deductions, if you actually do get the benefit out of it.
Okay.
But it is deductible as your itemized deduction. Now, switching gears to if it's like a rental property as an investment property, yes, you get to take your interest, your utilities, your any reasonable expenses associated with that rental property, you get to take against your passive income that you generate from that rental property. But one thing to keep in mind is passive activity losses. So you cannot, for instance, offset your active income, meaning your wages or something that you get paid, with losses from your rental property, which people forget and
yes,
think,
they
oh
do.
my gosh, I need a write-off. Let me lose money on a rental property. And let me
Yes.
also add, I'm not in the business to lose you money just for the sake of write-off. But
Yes.
there are rules around that they say, no, you can't just do that. You have to have other passive income to offset it. But eventually, if you do sell that property, they let you recapture those losses, but not till you actually sell it. But absolutely, if it's an investment property, you get those utilities, the real estate taxes, the interest, and even the principal of whatever that is in lieu of in the form of depreciation. And so that rental property, say you buy a rental property for $50,000, you get to depreciate the cost of that property minus any land, because land's not depreciable.
Of course.
So you have to split that out, but you get to take depreciation on the cost of that asset. Okay. One thing to keep in mind there as well, though, when you go to sell that asset, guess what? You have to, any cost, any benefit that you've already taken reduces your basis in that property. You got to recapture that depreciation if it goes on. But totally allowable to take those repairs, those maintenance, and the interest associated with that in an investment property. Another deduction that I think gets forgotten a ton with rental properties is sometimes you can qualify for taking mileage on your auto, maintaining those properties, but not commuting mileage. Okay. So, and that goes on with any mileage that people forget. You can never take commuting mileage from your place of work to, but in the course of you go to your rental property, you got to go, get some supplies to make a repair or something, that mileage, to keep track of it, keep your logs and everything.
Yeah.
And that can go into some deductions as well.
Excellent. And what about huge renovations? That's another question I get when somebody, their primary residence, maybe they're going to remodel their entire kitchen and, the windows, heating and air. Is there anything there that they can, have a tax benefit of?
Not necessarily for personal reasons, okay, but I will say there are some credits that come and go. It just, always check on the year with like solar energy and things like that, that there might be some qualifications. Those really change year to year, but you can, if you have a designated office space in your house, you can take a deduction for office use of your home, but it has to be a designated area and some of those things. So there are some benefits if you're in business for yourself. If you're officing out of your home, you can take a deduction. But for most people, they get, if you've lived in your house for a certain extended period of time as your primary residence, 2 out of the last 5 years, you can exclude a large amount of your capital gains, actually.
Okay.
So in a lot of instances, if you sell your principal residence, you will fall under that exclusion and not get hit with capital gains because it's your personal. So they allow you that exclusion. It's just when the investment property, they're like, no, it's an investment. It's a business. We're going to tax you on it.
Yeah, you got to have a house to live in, but you don't have to have rental properties.
Right.
That's
a business, different focus. Commercial. So a lot of them might meet those exclusion rules anyways. For single filers, it's it depends on your filing status, but usually it's like $250,000 or less of a capital gains. You get to exclude $500,000 or something for married. That you get to exclude the capital gains. So it does change your basis of, when they do those, how much they purchased it for, those major overhauls, how much you have in your home.
Yes.
And so it changes that number. So you're only taxed on the difference between what you sold it for and what your basis is.
Okay.
So that difference is the capital gains, not the entire, say you sell it for $400,000, not that entire amount. If you bought it for $300,000, just the difference between that two would be, $100 is what you actually get taxed. And that could be excluded, like I said, under those exclusion rules. So
Excellent to know. So, obviously there are a lot of tax benefits in real estate, like she talked about the 1031 exchanges, whether it be interest, improvements that you have on your rental properties, even a mileage deduction, if done properly, could save you, it could be a deduction and a tax benefit there. So, is there anything else that you want to add on the tax benefits in the 1031 exchange, more specifically with your new platform that you're coming out with? So kind of with what we're saying, we're also doing, I guess Jana is launching a website, has launched a website program course.
I got so much launching and going on, I feel like right now. A couple of things to answer your question. One thing I do want people to keep in mind is there is a difference between short-term and long-term capital gains. So if you're ever thinking, hey, I want to sell this investment and I'm ready to, and you're at the 11th month mark, it could save you quite a bit substantially if you hold it for like another couple months and you get into that long-term category. Okay. And so they've changed the long-term capital gains rate. It depends on your tax bracket now. If you get taxed at 0%, 20%, or 15% or 20%. If it's short-term, it's counted as ordinary income, which is a lot of times higher.
Right.
And so that's the difference. I just want to make sure clarify between those capital gains that it might not be as bad as you think, but long-term usually has a little bit more benefit if you're in that business.
Good to know.
So that is one of it. But As far as a lot of the stuff I have going on and kind of this new, and I didn't even know what to call it at first because I'm
Right.
like, okay, is it an online course? But I kind of have built in my mentorship through there, so you're not on your own.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm calling it a mentorship course.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you want to
just
hear
made
more,
that up. I just made that up.
if you want to hear a bit more about what we're talking about today, you can go to the Essential Accountant. Is it .com? TheEssentialAccountant.com. So this is a new course, and we'll switch gears here. This is a new course that or mentorship that Jana is providing. She's got an excellent website. She's all over social media. If you haven't seen her, she's everywhere. She's amazing. But kind of tell us a little bit. I mean, I know from a personal and business standpoint, there's a lot of young entrepreneurs out there, a lot of young business people. My degree is in secondary English education, not business. And
Right.
and I think that's a lot of people.
Yes.
They get into a position that they're like, how do I even start with not only like knowing about these tax benefits, knowing about kind of the commercial like business side. And so I came to her and I said, I need help. I need you to help me with my business planning, tax planning, so that I don't get down the road and have, issues, especially as a young business person. So kind of tell us a little bit more about this mentorship.
Right. So you're like the perfect example of so many business owners because there's two different things. There is providing your service, right, which you're really good at, and most business owners are extremely good at their niche or whatever it is that they're marketing, providing their services.
Yeah.
But then there's this hard line that you draw in the sand,
Yes.
and there is being really, really good at your craft, and then there is crap running a business, right?
Yes.
And there's
two different people. Yeah.
There's two different sides of it.
Yes.
And so many of them don't have a formal business training, right? You said
That's
your
right.
degree is in English.
Yes, secondary English ed.
And so
Yep.
you probably had no
Algebra
exposure.
one, that's it.
You had arithmetic
Yes.
practice,
Yes.
and that was it in
Yep.
college.
That's exactly right.
And there was no so besides your basic arithmetic, you had no training on kind of where to go. And there's so many business owners like that.
Yes.
I mean, there's not even a traditional path to call it a traditional path anymore. And I feel like more of the business degrees, they go into industries or something like that, working for companies, but so many of our creatives and entrepreneurs just come from so many different backgrounds, right?
Yes, they do.
And so this mentorship program, it's really trying to fill that void in. It still provides some formal education as far as I'm a teacher, and so that came out in me
Right.
of like, hey, here's how you actually learn this stuff. And I've packaged that together because I found I was having these same conversations time and time again. And so I've packaged that into kind of the lectures and with me through that online course platform, I guess. But throughout that, we have checkpoints that, we get on a phone call or whatever it is, or face to face if we're here in the area. But a lot of them aren't face to face because they're not within this radius. But then we have our checkpoints that we can kind of brainstorm and go through together. And, what made sense? Where do we want to go with our business? What questions do you have? So that's built in throughout the program as well. That's why I call it kind of a hybrid, but it's called Become Your Own CFO.
Oh,
And
I
so
like that title.
Become Your Own CFO. So if you think about it so many times, kind of the C-suites of execs, right? There's your CEO,
Yes,
your COO, and your CFO.
that's right.
Most of the time, the CEO and COO role is filled by you as the business owner because that's your craft. That's easy. You're running your operations. But the CFO role, a lot of times, is kind of put in the back of the mind for whatever reasons.
Yes.
Finances are super overwhelming to a lot of people, or maybe just a little intimidating.
They are.
Yeah,
they
and
can
maybe
be.
you can speak to
Yes.
that a little bit.
Well, and time's a huge thing.
Right.
The CFO position gets put on the back burner because your CEO and COO hat are on, and so it does. It gets put on the back burner, but it's excellent that you bring that up, that you bring out that in somebody. because we
Right.
can't always find it on our own.
Right. And I just really in the program is teaching you not, I need to clarify. It's not a bookkeeping course. Okay. Because
Very important to note.
bookkeeping is just merely data entry.
Yes.
Okay. It's a part and a component of doing it. You have to have that information.
Right.
But that's the low value for service. What I focus on in this mentorship, because bookkeeping makes perfect sense to outsource.
Yes.
If you don't have the time to do it, outsource it, be done with it. Low value service, right? You just need that data collected. But my focus more on this course is telling you how it works, because you have to know how it works, telling you what reports, the basic, those terminologies that you can go into the business meetings and know what's going on. Whenever your banker or whoever is throwing out words with, how liquid are you? You're like, I don't know.
Mean?
I had a Dr. Pepper earlier, right?
Yep. Yes. That's so true.
And there's so many times where people have finally confessed to me, they're like, I just sat there and nodded for the first 2 years of my business and pretended like I knew what was going on, where I had no idea. So that's where we start with this program, okay? We start with, we're going to know what we're talking about so we can talk in the same language.
Yes.
And then the focus is, now that I have this information, what can I do with it? Okay. How can I leverage this? Because knowledge is power, right?
It is.
Information is key. And solid information is, we look at, now here's where we're at, here's what we have. How can we use it to improve our bottom line in business? Because we're in business to make a profit, right?
Yes,
You've heard me say that so many times.
Not a hobby.
It's not a hobby.
That's right.
Otherwise, it's got, we're in business to make a profit. Otherwise, it's called a hobby. You hear me say that so many times. But it's so true. Whenever we're taking those side hustles or those things to the next level, we have to treat it as a business and make business decisions off of it, because even though we have a bigger why and purpose than making a profit a lot of times in our business, the profit is what gives us the resources to carry out our why and carry out why we're doing it and carrying out those funds. We have to have that resource, right?
Yes, we do.
To be able to provide for our families, ourselves, or, that purpose that we have, that bigger picture purpose, we have to have resources. That's just the nature of it. But we really work off of, and I mentor you through that process of making smart decisions and then figuring out, hey, here's where I want to get to the next level. Because I get this a lot as well. Business owners might come in and they say, I'm hitting the same mark every single year.
Yep.
Because organically, think about it, organically, you can kind of grow to a certain point, right? Without doing much.
You could.
Especially hard work. Without really just kind of putting yourself out there. There's a certain organic growth that you're going to get and targets you're going to get. And then also just with our economy and how the tide's been high for a long time, and we're coming up kind of on that 10-year mark that the tide's, and we've already experienced it in Woodward with the oil and gas. When the tide starts going down low, when the tide's high, a lot of bad decisions don't get highlighted.
Yes.
Either.
That's
because
true.
the economy's so great. It's when the tide goes back down that you're kind of like,
there it is.
There that got brought, that came to surface now this time. And it's really just working off of having that information and being able to withstand those when the tide goes low, and then when you hit that same mark year after year, knowing what you have to do to change that,
right,
to get to your next goal and to get to that next level. And there's so many just really useful tools and things that you can use, because the financial statements tell a story.
They do.
There's a number behind there's a story behind every number on that, right? And if you can figure out that story, you can figure out where you want to go. All accounting is taking qualitative information, picture, feelings, things, words, into quantitative form so you can look at it, and then turning it back into a qualitative form again with a business decision. That's all it is. So it's just really working you through that process.
Yeah. It's a story.
Yeah.
The
Right.
whole business is a story. I love that. And I love that Jana reaches not only our local entrepreneurs and business people, but also because it is an online resource, she can, Skype her clients and walk them through each process. So, whether you live in this area or outside of the Woodward area or Northwest Oklahoma even, she can be a huge resource to you. And I can attest to that just from my experience. Obviously, I live here in Woodward, but luckily due to our, internet and being able to be virtual and remote, you can help a lot of people with what the information you have, and the information that you've given us today is huge. But it also, if you want that, feedback and mentorship as you make those huge decisions, the Essential Accountant, and what was the mentor program?
The mentor program is Become Your Own CFO.
Become your own CFO.
So you take control over your finances.
Everybody wants to be the CEO, but then they forget that the CFO is actually it is the biggest part of it.
It's the ones that plan your financial future. So if you have any financial goals or something in that you want to reach, it's the CFO that dreamcasts that. It's the CFO that plans that. Yeah. Because like maybe you've heard that example before that I've said, it's super easy for me to say, hey, I want to make $1 million next year. Mm-hmm. It's easy to say that, but you have the steps and you have to have a plan to actually get there. Yes. And where to put your resources. You have to know where to put your resources to get you to that next level. And the financial statements is where it tells you to put those resources. So,
well, I love it. And I love that you've, obviously given our listeners a lot of valuable advice, tips on tax benefits, 1031 exchanges, and then also your mentorship program that they have a resource to go to. I guess, in closing, what is your favorite part of not only growing up in Northwest Oklahoma, but having your business here, working with the people every single day? What's your favorite part about being here in Northwest Oklahoma?
Gosh, I really think it is the people that is in this area. As corny maybe as that sounds, like, it's the people in this area. They're truly, I feel like, cut from a different cloth, and in the best way possible. Right. I mean that, because the support, jumping out and starting my own business and the support and feedback, even when I started my own business, I didn't get on social media, believe it or not, until April of this year. Wow. And that was the first time I've been on social media for 3 years. Wow. Once I got off. And, it's just people in this area, they connect and they care. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's not in every area. And sometimes we take it for granted because not every area is. I've been into communities because I traveled to different communities as well to do things. Mm-hmm. And I've been in different communities that the feel is not like it is in Woodward, where they kind of welcome you with open arms and actually want to see you succeed. Mm-hmm. And it's just the people here truly get behind you and create such a support system. Mm-hmm. And if you do any traveling outside different places, you just... We're so much friendlier here too, right? I
feel like we're pretty friendly,
and those things. And so it's just you can have a business anywhere, but to have the support that you get from Northwest Oklahoma, and you're really raised with a lot more, I want to say, I guess, grit. Yeah. To kind of push through things.
The highs and the lows.
And the people around here, they just raise you up to be a lot tougher and thick-skinned, I think, in this area than maybe in other parts of the world. So the people are what makes it happen here.
I love that. So, obviously, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for being part of Woodward's business community. She had presented Woodward Young Professionals our Lunch and Learn last week, which was amazing. She pretty much just said, have a plan in place. If you want to get to, from point A to point B, you have to have a plan. You can't just say, I want to make $1 million next year. It has to be some sort of rhyme or reason. And I feel like If you do want more information about her mentorship program, you can go to, what's the website?
So you can go to becomeyourcfo.com, and that's kind of where it will take you through the setup to schedule a clarity call with me. Okay, so we're going to chat about this first to see if it's even something that we can work out or that I can help with you with. Because I want to be a good fit.
Yes.
And to actually get results and make sure that you're in a place, and everything. And so we'll do that. But you can always find me, obviously, on Facebook.
Everywhere.
Someone asked the other day, or made the comment, asked my husband, and they were like, "Are you on Facebook?" And I was like, "Yeah." He got back on, and I was like, "I'm on there too again." And they're like, "We know you're on there. You're not hard to find."
That's not even a question.
Yeah, so you can always get a hold of me on my Facebook page. Send me a message if that's easiest for you. You can always email me, jana@essentialaccountant.com. That gets to me as well.
Okay.
Website, essentialaccountant.com. The mentorship. I mean, I got so many avenues to get in contact with me. That is not an excuse.
No excuses. No excuses. Well, Janet, thank you so much. Thank you for being a friend, my CPA, my accountant, my business planner. We're definitely a good partnership there. And thank you for being on The Local with Katie McKinney.
Thank you for having me. This was awesome.
Awesome.